The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gam Podcast Network is brought to you by Bank Fantasy. They have a brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5 to $50 in bonus funds when you use the promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gam Podcast here on the Sports Gam Podcast Network. It's currently Saturday night around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on August 23rd. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. The first of two episodes coming out tonight. We're going to be doing the U.S. Open here on the men's side. So to get into the updated schedule, of course, we have the U.S. Open men's episode and a women's episode coming out. We will do those back-to-back. So as soon as this one's over, check out the next episode for the women's. We're going to do those in order, so keep that in mind. But before we get into any of the actual recap of Winston-Salem for the final that we saw on Saturday, and before we get into the preview of the quarters and the outrights for the U.S. Open, I want to remind everybody once again that we are doing a giveaway for SGPN because we're giving away $1,000 Circa NFL Future Bet with the phrase that pays. Submit the phrase now at sportsgampodcast.com/phrase to once again have a chance to win a $1,000 NFL Future Bet for free. Anyway, point is looking at the actual recap of what happened for the Winston-Salem final. We recorded an episode relatively late last night, and overall the results were decent. Did hit the lock, did lose the dog. For the lock, nice win with Fucsovic's money line at minus 125, so can't really complain there. Got a bit dicey, I'll get into that in a second, but he got the job done as he won in straight sets. For the dog, though, picked up a loss as we ended up having the over 2.5 sets in the matchup at plus 130. No regrets, went to a breaker in the second set, so we had a chance there. Didn't get there, but either way, you ended up seeing it turn into a competitive matchup, which seemed unlikely based on how the match was actually going for the first hour and change or so. So the match took a turn halfway through the second set. Fucsovic was rolling. It looked like he was going to win easily, potentially like 6-3, 6-1. It looked ugly. So Fucsovic, just for reference, won the first set 6-3. He was up 5-1 in the second set. So once again, it looked like it was going to be over very, very quickly in about an hour and change. And then Zandschulp remembered how to play tennis, and the match got very, very competitive. So Fucsovic had two chances to serve for the match, as he ended up leading 5-2 on his serve and 5-4 on his serve. He had a match point in the 5-2 game, did not convert, got broken both times. So Zandschulp came all the way back from 5-1 down to up 6-5, actually. Then you saw Fucsovic hold, and it felt like Zandschulp kind of ran out of gas, and Fucsovic was able to get back into control of the match, and he ended up winning the second set via tie break. So once again, a very interesting matchup. It looked like it was going to be over very quickly. It looked like Zandschulp was exhausted after playing 3.5 sets yesterday, and we were wondering if his overall, I'd say, stamina would hold up. He came out flat, just simply put, and Fucsovic looked good for a guy that had a day off yesterday. Then things turned, but Fucsovic found a way to, I'd say, get his, I'd say, mental control back, and he found a way to get everything, I'd say, once again, the way that it should be for him, which was a nice straight set win because he was coasting to that. Then he made an adventure of it, losing 5 games in a row, yet he was able to get control again and to win the match in straight sets. So nice job by Fucsovic once again to get the job done in straight sets. It was a great spot for him only dropping once in the entire event, having a day off with Korda dropping out, and having an opponent who had to play 3.5 sets on Friday. It was really just a great spot for Fucsovic, and that's why we backed him on the money line. Thought he would close at like minus 135, minus 140, and he did. He closed around that, so he beat the line move there, worked out. For the dog, once again, we got a miracle breaker out of it. Zandschulp could not pull it out, but we had a chance there at plus 130 for the over 2.5 sets. Is what it is. We'll take the lock there for a nice win. Now, a reminder, because I forgot to mention it before, you can also support the show by leaving a like and subscribing on YouTube. And a reminder, you can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify and Apple. So podcasts available different ways. You can find it on the YouTube live stream format, the YouTube regular format afterwards, or check out Spotify or Apple, the edited version, audio only. So check that out as well. But don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a rating and a review. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the actual website for SGPN. We have a lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, so check that out. Very affordable, very comfortable. Recommend checking out the merch store, not just for our show, but for the other shows with the network, College Experience, MLB show, NBA show. You get the drill. Anyway, so nothing else to really recap there for the men's side, because we had one match and it was very straightforward. So moving on to the U.S. Open. it's about damn time. Looking forward to the final Grand Slam of the year. Should be fun. Of course, the question remains, can anybody, and I mean anybody, actually challenge Sinner or Alcaraz for the title? We're going to see. But I'll put it this way, I think both guys have manageable draws, and we'll see what happens moving forward. But that is the question, of course, can anybody actually stop Sinner or Alcaraz from winning a Grand Slam? Because it has been a while since somebody not named Alcaraz or Sinner has won a Grand Slam event. Now, for the recent winners of the event, you saw Sinner beat Fritz last year in straight sets. So Djokovic beat Medvedev the year before that. Alcaraz beat Ruud in I believe it was a COVID-shortened field there. And you saw Medvedev, who ended up ruining the calendar Grand Slam pursuit for Djokovic as he ended up winning that one. And once again, that was a bit of a shocker as he won in straight sets. So, point is, you've seen different faces and different names winning the event, and that is one common theme. Even though we've seen a lot of really talented players over the years, of course, the Big Three era, now you have Sinner and Alcaraz, repeating in the U.S. Open is actually not that common. The last person to win back-to-back U.S. Open titles was Federer, who won 5 in a row from 2004 to 2008. So it's been roughly 16, 17 years since somebody managed to win back-to-back U.S. Open titles. So Sinner did win last year. We'll see if he can break the streak. But historically speaking, if you win the event, you most likely do not win the following season. So keep that in mind. Now, for the actual quarter odds, this is going to be the Sinner quarter here for the first one. So moving on to the first quarter, Sinner's minus 340. I'm going to use DraftKings for these lines. I already shopped around, though. So if I mention a better price, I did shop around, and I'll mention it. The point is, for DraftKings, for convenience, I'll be using their lines. So minus 340 for Sinner. You have Draper at 4-1. You have Paul at 18-1. You have Musetti at plus 2,000. Caboli at 25-1. Bublik 25-1. Brooksby 28-1. Diallo 28-1. Pericard 30-1. Shapo 30-1, and you kind of get the point. So it's a pretty weak quarter. Full disclosure, I know Draper is a top 10 guy. I know that he won a 1,000 title on hard court in Winston-Salem this year. Will he beat Sinner? Absolutely not. Now, we saw Sinner beat him last year in the semis, I believe, of the U.S. Open. I think Sinner coasts. Yes, I understand he had an illness. He dropped out of the final in Cincinnati as he retired in the first set. Should be fine as far as I'm concerned. Illnesses, I'm not sure which one he actually had, but he took some time off, was able to recover. We know Sinner, even if he's below 100% health, should coast anyway in the first couple of rounds. So he should be able to get better as the event goes on. Capriva, though, in the first round is basically a bye. He'll win that one. Now you have Popyrin in the second round, which could be a bit tricky. We know that he ended up beating Djokovic last year in the U.S. Open. Sinner should get through that as well. He's in the same immediate half section as Fucsovic or Shapo. Once again, Sinner's going to coast, so even if he's not feeling great early in the event, he'll feel better late, and that's all that matters. So I think that Sinner should win the quarter. Am I picking anybody else? No. Because why would I do that? Sinner should probably dominate in the quarter. So give me Sinner minus 300, nobody else. Once again, I've mentioned this many times before, when it comes to getting creative for Grand Slams on the men's side for quarters, you can pick some spots. The Sinner quarter's probably not the spot you want to take, because even though he might end up losing Alcaraz at some point, or he doesn't win every Grand Slam, he still gets to the semis, which is all that matters for the quarterfinals here, or for the quarters, I mean. So give me Sinner at minus 300, nobody else, because I just think he's going to be running unopposed. Paul doesn't really scare me. He hasn't really been that good this season. We said he's not great on hard court. Caboli can be interesting, but I don't think he's really going to do much in the event. Bublik hasn't played since the clay season. He hasn't played a hardcore match in a while, and he's Cilic in the first round, which is pretty tricky. So, pretty good draw for Sinner. I think that the quarter is very weak, and I think most people feel that way. Give me Sinner, minus 300 is my first choice, and my only choice for the first quarter. Moving on to the second quarter, and this is going to be one of the more open ones, is the Zverev quarter. Now, you know that he's been a head case, but he did look better over the last couple of weeks. He had the health concern in Cincinnati as he ended up losing Alcaraz. He ended up losing in the semis to Khachanov in, once again, Toronto. So he's been making deep runs, not to the final and not winning titles, but he has been looking better when his diabetes doesn't act up in the heat. But he's plus 130 here. You have de Minaur at 5-1, Khachanov at 8-1. You have Rublev at 10-1. You have Tsitsipas at 11-1. For some reason, at 11-1. Can't beat Boo and Winston-Salem. He's 11-1. Good luck with that. You have Humbert at 14-1. Medvedev at 14-1. Cerundolo at 16-1. Felix 16-1. Majcik at 18-1. You kind of get the point. So, the question is, since this is not going to be an Alcaraz or Sinner quarter, am I picking somebody besides Zverev to win? First things first, I'm still going to go with Zverev in this one at 2-1. I know that he's a guy who can be very annoying to back, but for the draw, it's favorable. I'll put it that way. So he has to be low into the first round, basically a bye. He's in the same half section as Felix, so he definitely should get by that. Then you're looking at what's in the other half of his section. He has Rublev, so he's able to avoid a couple of the other, I'd say, threatening options there. Rublev, we know, has never made a semi in his life in a Grand Slam. You're looking at a couple of people who don't really scare me in his immediate section. And yes, Zverev, I know, can be annoying. Fact is, he did up the aggression in Cincinnati. He looked good before the injury or the actual, health concern acted up. And I do think that he will be able to outlast guys in his quarter. Not exactly the best quarter. You're looking at, once again, a couple of names that might seem interesting. Dimmenauer, I'm not going to pick. I don't think that he just doesn't have enough firepower on hard court to make it to the semis. You're looking at Rublev, who's never made it to a semi before. Tsitsipas is a head case, and he's been terrible lately. Humbert hasn't played much recently. Not a lot of depth in this quarter, but I'll pick a guy that beat him in Toronto. Give me Khachanov at plus 950. I like the price there for him. I think his actual draw is more difficult. He does have Basaveretti in the first round, who's a pretty good hardcore player. Of course, he's American, so the crowd will be against him. But point is, same half section as Cerundolo, who's been quite bad recently. He's in the same half section there as Dimmenauer. I think that Khachanov would beat Dimmenauer on hardcore personally. But Khachanov, we know, tends to make some surprising semifinal runs occasionally in the U.S. Open. Did one. He ended up having that a couple years ago when he ended up beating Kyrgios in the quarters. But the point is, I do think you're looking at Khachanov at 950, who we saw look good. He made it to the final in Toronto, lost a final set breaker against Shelton. If he's in form, 950 is a good price. So I'll skip him an hour at 5-1. Not interested. I think Khachanov, though, is the flyer that I'll take. I like the price. He's made the semis here before, and I do think that if Zverev does end up getting into a quarterfinal matchup against Khachanov, it's not the end of the world, because Khachanov just beat him. So I think that it's possible for Khachanov to get the job done again. 950, though, I think is a pretty good price. I'll take that as my choice for this one. Anyway, a point is, before we get into any of the other quarters, I'm not going to add anybody else, by the way, for the second quarter. Give me Zverev at 2-1 and Khachanov at 950. Now, before we get into the third quarter, reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is MyBookie ATP. You use them to bet on tennis, use them to bet on baseball, WNBA, golf, of course, football futures, because college football did start today. Hopefully your bets went well. MyBookie is also available a ton of occasions. Use them to bet on or use them to bet with crypto. You can use them for deposits and payouts. And a reminder, you can also use the promo code SGPN when you sign up to get a 50% value match up to 1K. Terms and conditions, apply with the G promo code SGPN. We're also brought to Rhythm because they have a lot of great models you can build for college football, for the NFL. You can also use them for baseball, for WNBA. And a reminder, they could also use the props that they've been crushing with for the NFL, especially over the last year or so. For example, they went 13-5 on Tyreek Hill props last year, 31% ROI. They also have baseball, WNBA, golf, and of course college football. So go to the site now, and you can also start building your models for NFL Week 1. When you actually do decide to try out the platform, don't forget you have a free week trial by using the promo link that we have. Go to sportsgampockets.com/rhythm to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the first two quarters in the U.S. Open on the men's side. Time to move on into the third quarter. Now, this is the Djokovic quarter. We know that he has pretty much only played majors recently, and he was very vocal about the really dumb schedule for 1,000 events, extending it and making it longer. And the fact is, Djokovic was pissed that nobody else spoke up when they talked about it initially, and now people complained about it. And Djokovic said, well, you should have been paying attention to the meetings. So Joker's not happy with the 1,000 schedules. Will that cause him to skip it in the future? Maybe. We'll see. We know Djokovic, though, at this point, is kind of a Grand Slam only guy. Does play a couple 1,000s. Did not play any of the ones recently. But the point is, we know Djokovic was in good form in Wimbledon. Did end up losing to Sinner handily as he got injured in the final stages of the Kaboli match right before it. But still, point is Djokovic hasn't played much tennis recently over the last couple months, but of course he's still the guy to beat in this quarter. He's plus 175. Fritz is 3-1. Rune is 9-1. Tiafoe's 10-1. Fonseca is at 12-1. Once again, extremely cheap on Fonseca for no apparent reason. Mensik is 12-1. Court is 16-1. Makic is 20-1. You get the point. So, for the quarter, am I picking anybody to challenge Djokovic? No, I am not. Give me Djokovic at plus 180. I like the price. And now looking at the actual draw, not bad. Tien could give him maybe a problem for a set or two, but Djokovic will win that one. He's a better server than Tien. Then he has basically a bye in the second round, Svaja or Piros. He should end up winning that one. He has Mickelson in his immediate section. Not really scared. Quarter the same thing. And you're looking at his immediate half being Rune. I know Rune beat him in Paris a couple years ago, but still, that's assuming that Rune can actually make it that far. He might lose to Zandschulp in the first round. Who knows? Maybe Struff, or maybe he even loses to Tiafoe. Who knows? But you're looking at the actual quarter. It's once again pretty weak. I mean, Fritz has never beaten Djokovic ever. I think he's won a set against him twice, and he's 0-10 a lifetime. So Joker owns Fritz. I'm not going to make a case for Fritz. I don't see the value there at all. You're looking at Rune at 9-1. I don't trust him. He's been really bad in Grand Slams recently. Lost in the first round of Wimbledon to Jari. I know that it's hardcore and all, but he lost to Nakashima in straight sets last year in the U.S. Open. He lost to Baena, I believe, in the first round 2 years ago, I think, in the U.S. Open. So Rune, I don't trust at all. Tiafoe would be the only wild card, but he's not beating Djokovic. So I don't have anybody that I think's worth a damn in this quarter to challenge him. Very, very straightforward, very chalky. But if they ended up experimenting a bit with, if they ended up tweaking, for example, the actual quarter and they put different guys in here, maybe I would actually consider taking somebody else. But I don't trust Fritz. I don't trust Rune. I don't trust Tiafoe. Fonseca, not even close. Mensik, I know, beat Djokovic in Miami. He has not really been in great form recently. Not interested. If you ended up throwing, like, somebody else in here, maybe I'd consider it, like Draper, for example. If Draper was in the quarter, maybe I'd consider it, but I just think Djokovic is going to win. I don't see anybody else really being that much of a threat. Now, I know last year he lost to Papirin, so I understand that you can see Djokovic getting upset. It happened last year. In reality, though, I'm just going to go Djokovic. I'll go chalk here. I don't see many great options in the third quarter, as Cayetano agrees with me. If there was a better, I'd say, depth component to this quarter, I would pick somebody, but there isn't. And Fritz, if I'm picking him to beat Djokovic finally, who's 0-10 lifetime, I need more than 3-1. I need at least 5 or 6-1, and I didn't get it. So give me Djokovic by himself at a plus 180 as my choice there for the third quarter. Moving on to the final quarter. This is the Alcaraz quarter. He's laying as he's minus 290, give or take, on DraftKings. Shelton is plus 370. Medvedev's at 10-1. Lashka's at 16-1. Ruud is at 18-1. Fekina at 25-1. Griekspoor 30-1. Mutet 30-1. Opelka at 40-1, who plays Alcaraz in the first round. And that's basically it. So looking at the actual quarter, the question is simple. Am I only taking Alcaraz, or am I picking somebody else besides Alcaraz? The answer is actually option number 2. I'm picking Alcaraz, of course, at minus 220. However, after losing to Zandschulp in straight sets in the U.S. Open last year, I had to pick somebody else just in case. We know that Sinner tends to be consistent when it comes to not flaming out of Grand Slams. Alcaraz can, and we saw that last year. So just in case of emergency, I will include somebody else. I'll take Shelton at 5-1. Shelton actually gave Alcaraz a run for his money in the French Open, and he won a set. Could have been 2. So Shelton on Alcaraz's best surface actually gave him kind of a war. And I think that Shelton's serve, if he hits his spots, can somewhat neutralize Alcaraz's return game. Now, I pick Alcaraz to win, obviously, but do I think there's a path for Shelton to make it to the semifinals again in this event? Sure, I see a possibility. I think 5-1 decent price. If you want to look at the actual draw for both guys, Alcaraz has a pretty decent draw. Opelka in the first round. They're looking at Shang probably in the second round. He's in the same half section as Darderi. That's a joke. He'll walk right into the third round, give or take. But you're looking at his half. You have Medvedev, who we know nobody can trust, and Medvedev faced off against Bonzi, who beat him in, I believe it was Wimbledon. So Medvedev, I understand, has had some success here in the past. I could not care less. There's a 0% chance I'm picking Medvedev. 0. As far as I'm concerned, it's a donation. He's been really, really bad for the last couple months, especially, and for pretty much the entire year. I don't trust him at all. So Medvedev, no chance in hell I'm taking him. That's a donation as far as I'm concerned. Give me, once again, chalk here with Alcaraz. I'll go with him minus 220. I think that is immediate half's too easy, and I do think, unlike last year, he should make it out of the quarter based on the draw. However, Zandschulp wasn't a threat to him on paper anyway, and Zandschulp beat him. So you never know with Alcaraz, but I'll go with Shelton, who I think just has the game to frustrate anybody with the serve here. He has Buse in the first round, then he has probably either Busta or Yalmas Ruiz. Same half section, though, as Griekspoor, who I know can be a bit streaky at times. We'll see. Leheshka could be interesting against Shelton, but Shelton just beat him handily in Cincinnati. Rue doesn't scare me on hard court at all. So I'm going to go with Shelton as my other option here for Alcaraz. So even though I'm going with relative chalk, I'll include a fail-safe for Alcaraz just in case last year happens again. Give me Shelton a 5-1 as my second choice for the fourth quarter. Moving on to the outright picks. Now, once again, we did it for Wimbledon. Am I picking anybody besides Alcaraz and Sinner? We've done it basically the entire damn year. Just picking Alcaraz and Sinner and seeing what happens. Will I change it up? We're about to find out. For the actual outright, Sinner plus 110, Alcaraz plus 175, Djokovic 14-1, Shelton 18-1. You're looking at Draper 20-1, Zverev 22-1. Fritz is 30-1, Medvedev is 60-1. No point in mentioning anybody else. Why would you ever bet anybody else? So, for the outrights, am I picking anybody besides Sinner and Alcaraz? Hell no. I'm not picking anybody besides Sinner and Alcaraz. So I'm going to go with the exact same game plan that I had for Wimbledon. The very boring chalk fest. If you want more creativity, check out the women's episode after this one, because there's no point with Sinner and Alcaraz walking into every single final. So I'm going to go with Sinner at plus 110. And I will go with Alcaraz at plus 195. That is it. Nothing else to add. If you want Djokovic at 14-1, I'm rooting for you. I hope Djokovic does win another one. However, the problem is, I've said many times before, I think Djokovic can beat Alcaraz on hard court. We saw it in the Australian Open. The problem is, do I think Djokovic can ever beat Sinner again in 3 out of 5? No, I do not. I think Sinner is a really bad matchup for Djokovic. I think Sinner is a better version of Djokovic right now at the stage in his career. So, do I think that Djokovic will end up beating Alcaraz and Sinner? I do not. So I will pass on Djokovic at 14-1. If you want him once again, I'm rooting for you. I hope Djokovic does prove me wrong. I hope he wins the title. But I think Sinner would beat him every time they play until he retires. So no chance of taking Djokovic. He can beat Alcaraz. I'll give him a shot in making the final. But give me chalk. Give me Sinner at plus 110 and Alcaraz at plus 195. If you want to take a long shot with Zverev, good luck to you, man. I'm not taking him with you. I'm rooting for you, I guess. But nobody's really proven that they can handle Alcaraz or Sinner in a 3 out of 5 mentally recently, and I am not interested. So there you go. Nothing else to add. I see Andrew asking if there's any chance of a parlay cashing with Sinner, Alcaraz, and Swiatek. Look, I didn't mention the women's episode yet because I'm going to save that. I have those 3 quarter winners, so you should be fine. If you had to pick one who'd mess it up, probably Swiatek, but who knows? I think she'll be fine. She ended up just winning Cincinnati. She looked great in the process, and she's been great. So probably you're fine, but we'll see what happens. Nothing else to add once again for that. But I'll throw in Shelton as the long shot flyer at 5-1 in that Alcaraz quarter. I got nothing else to add. Once again, I mentioned this as a warning sign to everybody in every single Grand Slam preview for the men's. Don't expect creativity. I'll throw in the occasional long shot in a quarter, like Kashanov, for example, at 950. But looking at Sinner and Alcaraz win every single damn Grand Slam, why the hell would I pick anybody besides these two people? If you want to flash back to like mid to late 2000s, before Djokovic had his coming out party, why would you ever pick against Federer or Nadal? it was just a waste of money. Like, why would you bother doing any of that? So I'm going to do the same thing I did in Wimbledon. We automatically won. Give me the Sinner and Alcaraz final. If not, who cares? Whoever ends up making it there should beat whoever's the surprise finalist anyway. Like last year, we saw Sinner destroy Fritz in straight sets. Could be that outcome too. So either way, give me the two chalk options here. That's it. Until somebody not named Sinner and Alcaraz win a Grand Slam, I'm not picking any of them to win a Grand Slam. That's all I have to say. So anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the the outrights for the men's U.S. Open. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks of the first round. Before we get into the actual lock and dog, the reminder brought to you by our sponsor, which is Circa, because they're hosting three biggest football contests for the upcoming NFL season. The Circa Million, Circa Survivor, and Circa Rendismo. Over $20 million guaranteed prizes. And a reminder, you can also hang out at SGPN for Circa Contest weekend. If you are in Vegas right now, hopefully you enjoyed it. If not, it's fine. I understand. Tough to travel there now, but you can definitely try to catch us next time that we are there. But a reminder, if you do want a discount next time you're at Circa, use the promo code SGP15, get 15% off your stay at Circa. And a reminder, the contest is open to everyone. You can sign up in Nevada, play for anyone with the help of our proxy, go to footballcontest.com. Use code SGP, $50 off your proxy fees. We're also brought to you Fantasy, because they're Best Mania, happening all summer long. 15 million prizes, 2 minute first place, no waiver wire, no trades, and a reminder that you can also use Underdog for pick'em entries. They have tennis, so if you want to do some aces stuff, some breaks of serve, they have a lot of options on Underdog. So check out the, once again, entries for some tennis stuff if you want some U.S. Open content. But a reminder, you can also use the new offer that they have for new customers. Play just $5, get $50 in bonus funds when you use the promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the outrights for the U.S. Open. Time to go on into the lock and dog picks. Now, for the lock, I'm going to go with what seems like a risky play, but I like it for the odds. Now, I did find a rogue line. I found a total play that I like for an over. Now, most books have 41.5. I saw 40.5, but I found on BetOnline a 39.5, and I'll take it offshore. Give me Bublik and Cilic. I mentioned the matchup before. Give me the over. 39.5 games here at minus 110. Now, the total is at 41.5 in some spots, so there has been a lot of movement on the over. Still the 39.5, though, so I'll take it now. Now, if you can only get 40.5 or 41.5, I still, I guess, don't mind it, but I really prefer the 39.5. I think it is a key number. You have 4 separate 6-4s, you win, and if you take it later on, you lose at 41.5, for example. But I do think you're going to end up seeing a good serving display from both guys. The tiebreak in this one's minus 350. The over 3.5 sets is minus 200. You get those two things, you're in great shape because you get a 7-6 and a couple of 6-3s in there. You still end up with a nice total of about 40, give or take. So I do like the idea of having a breaker. We know Bublik is a very good server. He's been in good form recently, has not played since the clay slate, but the fact is he was serving bombs over there. Seems like he has mentally found a different seriousness they did not have previously. Some rust might play a factor, though. Both guys haven't played in a while, as Cilic has not played since Wimbledon, I believe. He was good in Wimbledon, though. Won some rounds. He ended up serving well. And we know that both guys can be a bit streaky, though, with their own games. So you might end up seeing a bit of a marathon unfold here between the two of them. But Cilic's had a couple of marathons recently in Grand Slams by winning 6 of the last 8 Grand Slam matches. They're not in straight sets. But simply put, 39.5. I think is too low. Both guys are very good servers, and we know the returning can be pretty iffy for them. But I think that works to our benefit here. Give me a solid serve fest here. Give me some 4 or 5 set marathon tennis. And once again, give me the over. I think you'll see a breaker and probably 4+ sets in this one. So give me the over as my lock for the show. In the Bublik and Cilic match, 39.5 at minus 110 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to a first set and match combo play. The Lloyd Harris match against Baez. Give me Harris to win the first set and the match at plus 110. This is on FanDuel. Now, it's pretty interesting that Harris is a qualifier in the event. He did not drop a set in qualifying. Baez, of course, did play Winston-Salem. He ended up losing to Zandschulp in 3 sets. But Harris is favored in the matchup as a qualifier. Main reason, Baez is really, really bad on hard court. He is 22-50 lifetime on the ATP level on hard court. Baez, we know, is a clay specialist. He's not good on hard court, and we know that Harris is a very good server, and that could be a problem for Baez because Baez, as a reminder, is only 5'7". So Harris might serve a bunch of aces, might finish with north of 25 in this one. The point is, I think Baez is going to struggle to actually extend rallies if Harris is able to hit his spots on his serve. Baez, we know, is not a great player in general outside of clay. I think it'll be an issue for him. And the fact is, Harris has been good here in the past, in his career. He's quietly 12-5, including qualifying straight up in the U.S. Open. And he also randomly made the quarterfinals in 2021. But Harris was in rough, I'd say underwhelming form recently, went to qualifying, did not drop a set, served very well. We know Baez had an okay showing on hard court recently for his own standard. He beat Goffin, who had a foot injury. He couldn't move, so that was an easy win for him. He ended up winning another matchup later on. But the point is he lost to Diallo, I'd say a similar play style to Harris, and he lost to him in straight sets. Baez, though, is objectively not a good hardcourt player. Harris, I think, is. And the fact is, I think the big serve with the small stature of Baez is a really bad combo for Baez. I know that he's a decent favorite here in this one, like minus 170, give or take, but he can get this down to plus 110 with Harris to win the first set as well. So I see maybe a breaker or two. Harris maybe unloads on the forehand and is able to shorten the rallies, come forward, and I'd say neutralize Baez's best attribute, which is his rally tolerance. But I see a good matchup for Harris with the size and with his overall hardcourt skill set compared to Baez. Give me Harris to win the first set and the match at plus 110 as my dog. So anyway, once again, the lock and dog picks for the first round of the men's U.S. Open. The lock's going to be on the Bublik and Cilic match. Give me the over, 39.5 games, minus 110. For the dog, I'm going to go with the Lloyd Harris match. Lloyd Harris to win the first set and the match at plus 110 against Baez. Can wrap it up for the show. We're back once again in about 5 minutes for the women's episode. That'll come out once again in a little bit. But until next time, I'm on Twitter Radio, and good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Once again, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.